To speak more on this, let's now welcome the organization Undoing Tax Abuse CEO, Wayne Duvenage. Wayne, a very good afternoon to you. So we see that this dialogue is now taking place. We've heard from various societal sectors and leaders of this country, including more prominently former President Thabo Mbeki, that South Africa is in fact in a crisis. How do you think the national dialogue should be structured, going forward, just to ensure it succeeds in its mandate, building a corruption-free South Africa for one?
Yes, it's a very interesting question because we've had a lot of talking over the years and not enough action in the space, and we are in a crisis, but we're not behaving as if corruption is a crisis. So you'll see that the National Anti-Corruption Committee or Advisory Council there giving a lot of input on the whole structure around the National Anti-Corruption Strategy and the various pillars. So a lot of good insights. But I think what's very important is for these teams through these plenary sessions and discussions to get feedback from the people that are present, civil society, business, government departments, and so on, as to how do we meaningfully tackle the scourge of corruption, which is really holding us back as a nation and costing us a lot of money.
I mean, where do we begin? Because when you also raise an important point, one that has been made, numerous times, that, we do have well-intentioned plans here, and we do actually have people in the room to engage on some of these plans. But what we are lacking is execution. Is it because we don't really understand what we mean by a national dialogue? We don't, in fact, know where to begin. For one, if you look at the word dialogue, it perhaps means being honest with ourselves, being in a room to clearly understand and listen, to various entities and what the struggles really are there.
Yes, and to have the hard conversations and to start listening. And that's really what we need to come out of this session. And so there have been some good inputs and good insights. But what is important now and what we are hearing is that, the NACAC process, the anti-corruption process, is talking about an Office of Public Integrity as a centralizing entity, whether it's a Section 9 entity with powers or prosecuting powers or not. The culmination of the thinking is this: we've got a lot of good institutions in the NPA, in the Hawks, in the Special Investigations Unit, Assets Forfeiture Unit, even SARS, that should be collating their information, collaborating a lot more, because they seem to be working in silos. They need to be capacitated and not just throwing people at the problem, but capacitated with the necessary skills and systems so that they can collaborate better to get on with the job of holding people to account in the space of corruption. And that's where a lot of the frustration is being experienced. And we see every year, the last 2 years, as a matter of fact, the NPA's budget has been cut. And yet we need to deal with this as a crisis. And that's what's coming through. If we're going to tackle this as a crisis, then we need to show the public. Government needs to get serious behind this and put the funds and the expertise. Otherwise, we'll be talking about the state capture report and the lack of implementation for years to come.
And I mean, what entities do you think are needed here? I mean, I don't think anybody wants another Section 9 type institution, to be exact, to be implemented here, because we already have bodies that are meant to look at, just some of the systemic governance challenges, for one, that we are, in this country facing. We've seen the Zondo Commission list a number of things that could go wrong and have gone wrong because of some structures that are in place but are not necessarily followed. I think what we need here is a level of, probably understanding in terms of which policies need to be executed and executed now. And importantly, people need to be held to account, those that infringe on some of those fundamental policies that are in place.
Yes, and we've got good policies and we've got good laws and we've got everything in our favor in that regard. We just have a lack of capacity. So if you see the number of cases that have not come to fruition, where they were going to court and arresting people, people who've transgressed the rules in state capture, and yet these cases have been thrown out or suspended. That's not good enough for the country. So we've got all the laws, but what we don't have is the ability to build through good forensic investigations, money flow investigations, and prosecution abilities. Those are missing. And unless we get that right and really capacitate to such a high professional level, and again, as I said, not working in silos, we can move forward in this space. But corruption will continue, and it is continuing, by the way. It is very bad at the moment, as the corrupt entities throw a lot of their own resources into defending themselves. And if we're not up to playing that game properly and professionally, we're going to get beaten, and we're going to be on the back foot the whole time. So hopefully this dialogue, this conference, can not only make clear exactly what the National Anti-Corruption Strategy is going to be, this Office of Public Integrity, what its role is going to be, but also to make sure that we capacitate and move forward. Otherwise, I'm afraid this is getting so frustrating to see people walking the streets that should be behind bars.
What for you, as somebody who's obviously at the forefront of the Organization Undoing Tax Abuse, would meaningful dialogue that, forges positive change in South Africa look like for you?
Well, I think it means capacitating, as we've said. It means that when we come out of these discussions, we stop paying lip service to and get down to putting the expertise into the SIU, into the public protector, for instance. A number of years ago, a decade ago, had 700 staff. It's got less than half of that at the moment. The NPA is missing so many skills in the whole space of forensics and prosecutorial skills and investigation skills. If we don't capacitate and do not take out the barriers that exist in those areas, and then get these institutions to talk to each other, work together. SARS has got immense powers to just follow the money and take out individuals in the corrupt syndicates right now. And I know it's easier said than done, but you don't have to build complicated cases with 15 people in the dock on one matter. Go after systemically, number one, number two, separately, so you do not have this filibustering and the Stalingrad tactics and this waste of taxpayers' money in lengthy cases that never see the end of the day.
And Ryan, as we wrap our conversation, one of the key things that will also perhaps make this work is if civil society, rise up and reports any form of corruption. But the problem is we've seen how whistleblowers in this country are being treated. And it just leaves one devastated when you see individuals who rise up to the challenge and listen and put their hands up and say, this is what I'm seeing in my organization. These people lose not only their lives, but their families are devastated because they've lost breadwinners who look after them. What else do we need to do then to encourage people to speak out if we know that our systems don't protect them?
That's such a good question. Whistleblowers are the cornerstone and the keystone to successful prosecutions, to successful civil activism as we build cases for the NPA and with the NPA and the SIU. And without their input, we are left on the back foot. Now, what's sad to see is that, as you say, so many of them are just removed from the businesses on trumped-up charges, suspended, fired. They lose their homes, their livelihoods. It is devastating. And we've heard from a number of people that say they're not going to go down this road. So part of our process, and people blowing the whistle on our website, is to tell whistleblowers, be very careful. Don't lose your job. Do not do things in a brazen manner. Record, photograph, get copies of information very surreptitiously, very carefully, and feed that through to us. But make sure you don't get caught. Stay employed, stay on the inside, and do your job. Keep your head down, but feed the information, because we need information to be able to hold people to account, but do it very carefully. So whistleblowers, as per the Zonda report, are not being looked after, not being protected, and there's a lot to be done. And again, this is covered in the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, but not enough is done to put it into place and implement.